WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and 1 o'clock in Lagos. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Senegalese lawmakers begin consideration of interpreting amnesty law as CSOs call for inclusive consultation.
In the Senegalese constitution, they said the respect of human rights and the respect of the right of citizen is the basis of the Senegalese society. Human rights have been violated.
Biometric registration kits arrive in Guinea as authorities set September 21 for referendum vote.
The biometric enrollment team for citizens allows us to meet the deadline that the President of the Republic has set before the people of Guinea.
National Elections Commission in Liberia declares official campaign open for Nimba by-election, and a trio of Mali, Burkina and Niger foreign ministers to visit Moscow this week. Please stay tuned for details of the stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. Let's begin in Senegal here, where lawmakers are in session to begin the consideration of the proposed law to interpret the amnesty law covering events from 2021 to 2024, a text that has sparked controversy and divided opinions. According to the author of this bill, MP Amadou Ba, all perpetrators of acts of assassination, torture and murder, regardless of their political affiliation, will never be covered by amnesty. It suggested that Senegal has an obligation to comply with several international human rights conventions that the country has ratified, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, and the Convention Against Torture. Meanwhile, 20 civil society organizations here in Senegal have urged the National Assembly to engage in more inclusive consultations with key stakeholders before interpreting the law. The CSOs argue that the current amnesty law under consideration does not serve the best interests of citizens, as it fails to deliver justice to victims of the atrocities that occurred between 2021 and 2024. Christopher Ticho has a report on this.
As the deputies prepare to be summoned to a plenary session today to vote on the proposed bill interpreting the controversial amnesty law, 20 civil society organizations in the country have expressed their displeasure at the move, calling for a more inclusive consultation with all stakeholders with the objective of ensuring a fair and transparent justice for victims of the atrocities and human rights violations committed between 2021 and 2024. AU governance expert Ibrahim Khan speaks on behalf of the CSOs.
This amnesty law, unlike the other amnesty law, is an amnesty law that creates a lot of problems. First, by the number of people who were killed during the period of time covered by the amnesty. Senegal has accepted treaties that don't really permit the possibility for a person who has committed torture to be amnestied by the law. But the first amnesty was covering everything. So for us, let's sit down as citizens of this country, discuss the best way, so together with the authorities, we help draft a new bill so that that new bill can be adopted by the parliament.
To avert future atrocities, Ibrahim Khan called for the respect of human rights as enshrined in the Senegalese constitution.
In the Senegalese constitution, they said the respect of human rights and the respect of the right of citizen is the basis of the Senegalese society. Human rights have been violated. If we don't sort out those human rights violations, it will touch on the structure of our own society. And then it means that our future is at stake, and that is a big problem.
The current amnesty law in contention marks the 10th time Senegal has granted amnesty since independence. However, the current law passed under the ex-war Macky Sall administration has been faced with lots of controversies, as experts believe it's not in the best interest of the Senegalese citizens.
Christopher Ticho found that report. We do have more conversation coming up much later in the news. In the meantime, in neighboring Guinea, the military leader set September 21, 2025 as the date for a constitutional referendum, according to a decree read out on state television on Tuesday evening, in a potential first step towards returning to constitutional democracy. Mamadi Doumbouya seized power in a coup in September 2021 and in 2022 proposed a 2-year transition to elections, but then did not take steps to organize a vote. Guinea admits the December 31, 2024 deadline that military authorities had set for a return to a civilian administration. In July 2024, the junta presented a draft of a new constitution, which may allow Doumbouya to participate in the next presidential post. Authorities have said a referendum on the draft constitution would be a precursor to any election and a return to a constitutional rule. Guinea's 2 former ruling parties are currently suspended. The other major opposition party, the Union of Democratic Forces of Guinea, UFDG, has been placed under surveillance. In the meantime, biometric registration kits arrived in Conakry on Tuesday in preparation for the upcoming elections. The Prime Minister and several government officials were present to receive the materials. According to the Guinean government, the arrival of these registration kits will expedite the return to the constitutional order. However, the opposition contends that the government is not following through on the plan to organize elections. They are demanding an explanation for the government's decision to exclude the PN RAVEC in favor of biometric registration for establishing the electoral register. Augustine Kohli completes the story.
The enrollment kits will be distributed across the country and in some Guinean embassies abroad. According to the Minister of Territorial Administration, General Ibrahim Ankali Konde, the arrival of these kits will help ensure adherence to the electoral calendar.
The biometric enrollment team for citizens allows us to meet the deadline that the President of the Republic has set before the people of Guinea to ensure that the entire process concludes in the same manner.
However, a faction of the opposition is expressing confusion over the government's reverser regarding the decision to derive the electoral register from the general census, which was intended to serve as a civic status report. Mohamed Sisse from the Party of Hope for National Development is calling for clarification on this matter.
It is the government that said that with the RAVEC, it could manage to pull the electoral file to move towards elections without any disputes related to the file. 2 years later, we are told that it cannot go ahead. But is it today that the government realized it cannot go ahead? Or could the government have conducted deeper analysis? We are in a country where there is also no justification. No one holds them accountable. Why they proposed it, what hypothesis they had, and why the project could not reach this level. There must be consequences.
As a reminder, in a decree announced on national television Tuesday evening, the head of the junta in Guinea, General Mamadi Doumbouya, announced that the constitutional referendum is scheduled for Sunday, September 21, 2025.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
All right, away from Guinea, the National Autonomous Electoral Commission of Benin is conducting a seminar focused on strategic and operational planning for electoral activities in preparation for the 2026 general elections. The seminar began on Tuesday in Boigon, a city in southern Benin, and will run until Friday. The meeting includes all senior staff as well as executives from partner organizations. Abraham Baka has the details of this report filed by Aziz Adam Sule in Cotonou.
According to the National Autonomous Electoral Commission President Sakalafia, the meeting will help identify and analyze potential challenges faced by the organizers of the 2026 general elections. This preparation will enable them to anticipate issues and respond swiftly. Lafia said during the meeting, participants will discuss all activities included in the electoral timetable, which will be detailed in official documents. The monitoring and evaluation of the electoral process will also be addressed. The electoral timetable serves as a crucial tool for organizing various stages of the election process, allowing for the identification and planning of tasks necessary to conduct the elections within legal deadlines. The president of the National Autonomous Electoral Commission of Benin emphasized that this meeting is designed to equip commission members with the skills needed to foresee difficulties, ensure a shared understanding of the planning documents, and maintain vigorous monitoring of the electoral process. He reassured the public that the 2026 general elections will be conducted without any irregularities.
Abraham Parker with that report as filed in by Aziz Adam Solis from Cotonou. Elsewhere in Ghana, President John Dramani Mahama has ordered a full-scale investigation into claims that 2 suspicious flights allegedly linked to drug trafficking and money laundering landed at Kotoko International Airport, KIA. The directive follows concerns raised by Asin South MP, Reverend John Ntim Fujo, who also serves as the ranking member of Parliament Defence and Interior Committee. During a press conference, Reverend Fujo claimed that the flights, an air ambulance and a private jet were suspected of being used for illicit activities. WDL's Accra correspondent Nadid Etete reports.
The minority in Ghana's parliament at a press conference on Tuesday, April 1, 2025, raised serious security concerns alleging drug and cash smuggling via private jets, the mysterious disappearance of 12 containers filled with gold and cash, and a private attack on a Ghanaian fishing vessel. Led by Asin South MP, who also serves as the ranking member on the Defence and Interior Committee of Parliament, Reverend Ntim Fujo, the New Patriotic Party side of Parliament cited 2 private aircraft, Airmed Flight N823AM and Kavok Air, which reportedly landed at Kotoko International Airport in March, allegedly carrying cocaine and cash.
The Minority Caucus calls on national security to, as a matter of urgency, make public the content of cargo suspected to be cocaine and cash transported into the country by 2 suspicious flights, which landed on the tarmac of Kotoko International Airport in March 2025 from Gran Canaria, an island of Spain.
The Minority Caucus also demanded answers regarding the alleged pirate attack on the Ghanaian fishing vessel Mengzin 1 on April 27, urging the government to equip the Ghana Navy with offshore patrol vessels to secure the country's territorial waters. Reacting to the allegations of illicit drug activity and money laundering, President Mahama assured that his administration takes such matters seriously and has ordered a full-scale investigation. He directed the Narcotics Control Commission, NACOC, the police the National Investigations Bureau, NIB, and the National Security Coordinator to work closely with Reverend Ntim Fujo to probe the claims and take decisive action. Reaffirming his government's zero-tolerance stance on drug trafficking, the president disclosed that the NIB recently intercepted drugs worth $350 million in a major bust. For WDR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
In parliamentary news, members of Togo's parliament gathered at the National Assembly on Tuesday for the opening of the first ordinary session of the year 2025. Out of the 113 elected representatives, 87 attended the session called by the National Assembly President, Kojo Sevon Tepe Adeze. Abdullah Hassan reports.
The proceedings commenced with an official ceremony in accordance with Article 12 of the May 6, 2024 Constitution. Scheduled to last for 3 months, the session will enable members of parliament to review organic laws and elect representatives to the new institutions of the Republic, as well as independent administrative authorities accountable to the National Assembly. Additionally, members of parliament will participate in 4 major anti-parliamentary meetings. The first ordinary session of the year takes place in a unique political context marked by the effective establishment of the parliamentary system. Kojo Sevon Tepe Adeze serves as the president of the National Assembly.
En ce moment charnière de notre histoire constitutionnelle.
At this pivotal moment in our constitutional history, it is our duty to demonstrate unwavering determination and total commitment to the responsibilities entrusted to us. The upcoming appointment of the President of the Council, a foundational step in this new constitutional era, requires us to engage in rigorous analysis, sincere dialogue, and a shared vision for the future of our nation. Dear colleagues, history will judge us by our actions in these decisive moments. Let us therefore rise to the expectations of our fellow citizens who place their hope in us for a better future.
Leur espoir d'un avenir meilleur.
Meanwhile, Pastor Edo Komi, a civil society activist and president of the Martin Luther King movement, draws the attention of local elected officials to societal issues and urges them to prioritize the interest of the people.
We are concerned about the interests of the populations. Today, regarding the electricity issue, it's the National Assembly being called for account. What about the issue of the freeze zone company? Will we hold the responsible parties accountable? There are so many social problems for which we are waiting for the National Assembly, because the National Assembly controls the actions of the government and votes on the law, as well as the passport with the costs involved. So we are waiting more than the National Assembly on these issues of calling ministers and the heads of these institutions to account.
It is also important to note that the deputies convened from March 4 to March 28 for an extraordinary session called at the request of President Foyan Simbe. This session resulted in the adoption of 7 bills and a proposed resolution.
Abdullah Hassan voiced the report outlined by WDR's correspondent Sylvie Odrago in Lomé. Meanwhile, Liberia's National Elections Commission has officially announced the start of political campaign activities for the senatorial by-election in Nimba County, located in the northern region of the country. This by-election is scheduled for Tuesday, April 22, following the death of Senator Prince Johnson on November 29, 2024, after a prolonged illness. Approximately 7 candidates, including one woman, have qualified to contest for the vacant seat in the Liberian Senate. During the official announcement of political campaign activities on Tuesday, Davidetta Brown-Lansana, chairperson of the National Elections Commission, assured the public that all preparations for the election are progressing smoothly. Here is an excerpt of Davidetta Brown-Lansana's declaration.
The National Elections Commission is pleased to report that 7 candidates have been qualified to contest in the 2025 Nimba County senatorial by-election. The candidates are Tobo Tiwoke Fangalo, Independent; B. Mac Blewon, Citizens Movement for Change; Edith Lianu Gonglo Wed, Independent candidate; George Parkinson Gombu, African Democratic Movement; Samuel Gongwe Koga, Movement for Democracy and Reconstruction; Richard Martinoke Tingwe, Vision for Liberia Transformation; and Garrison Dode Yelu Jr., Independent candidate. Female candidates in this by-election, 1 person. Male candidates are 6. Independent candidates, 3. Political parties, coalition, alliance candidates, 4. Total number of candidates, 7 persons will be vying for the lone seat in this by-election in Nimba County. Fellow Liberians, I, Davidetta Brown-Lansana, chairperson of the National Elections Commission of Liberia from the beautiful city of Tapita, Nimba County, do hereby officially declare political campaign open in the senatorial by-election Nimba County to 19 April 2025 at midnight. I wish to call on all candidates and their supporters to go about their campaign activities in a peaceful manner.
That was Davidetta Brown-Lansana, chairperson of Liberia's National Elections Commission. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM Dakar and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Senegalese lawmakers begin consideration of interpreting amnesty law as CSOs call for inclusive consultation. Biometric registration kits arrive in Guinea as authorities set September 21 for referendum votes. National Elections Commission in Liberia declares official campaign open for a Nimba by-election. And still ahead, the trio of Mali, Burkina, and Niger foreign ministers to visit Moscow this week. We do have the press review, a guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
We're streaming live on wadr.org, YouTube and Facebook. Now, the foreign ministers of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger will visit Moscow this week as the Sahel nations and Russia seek to strengthen ties. The three countries' foreign ministries said in a joint statement on Tuesday. The trio, run by juntas that have taken part in coups in recent years, have formed an alliance known as the Confederation of Sahel State, AES. The grouping kicked out French and other Western forces and turned towards Russia for military support. The statement said the foreign ministers will visit Moscow on April 3 and 4 and hold meetings with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov at his invitation. It referred to this week's visit as a first session of AES-Russia consultations. The three countries' armies are fighting a jihadist insurgency that has spread across the region south of the Sahara since it first took root in Mali 13 years ago.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, Sankle Janko has the review of newspapers from Banjul.
Let's begin today's press review with the Fourier newspaper. And the lead story on the Fourier newspaper reads, Serekunda now raises community concerns in Parliament. National Assembly member for Serekunda constituency, according to this report, raises community concerns during a session in Parliament. Fire incident claims the lives of two naval officers in Banjul. A recent fire outbreak at the depot in Banjul claimed the life of two naval officers, according to this report. Gambia participates in the establishment of ECOWAS Youth Parliament. This other one reads, Majority Leader says Parliament will work without fear or favor. This other one reads, Please arrest child kidnapper. Investigate murder and Serekunda fire incident. Banjul Muslim elders ask for government support to extend mortuary. This other one reads, Gav Hall military burial for fallen Richard Mendy. Let's take a look at the final newspaper for today, and that is the Standard newspaper. And the lead story on the final newspaper reads, Barrow flexes finger at civil servants undermining government. This other one reads, Baba Lee says government officials, imams should fear God. Baba Lee is a renowned Muslim scholar who is also a commissioner in the National Human Rights Commission. 2 killed in naval base fire. That's another report. This other one reads, Woman protecting minor from sexual assault killed. And the final story for today reads, Tal abandons challenge to deportation order, leaves U.S. Modou Tal is a Gambian British citizen who recently filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump administration following recent protests in his university. His visa was revoked, and instead of waiting for deportation, he decided to leave the U.S. I'm afraid these are the major stories making headlines on Gambian dailies. It's back to you in the studio.
Many thanks, Angli Janko, with the newspaper review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, in furtherance of the conversation on the Senegal's amnesty law, which has been deliberated on by lawmakers, CSOs in the country are calling for inclusive consultations. Let's join governance expert Dr. Ibrahim Akan for more.
As you know, Macky Sall, before leaving power, the parliament adopted an amnesty law, which at that time was criticized by many Senegalese as a way of giving amnesty to those who have committed the most serious crime in the Senegalese political history. Not only the army, but also people were killed in the car, in the bus, and there was a lot of crime committed. Now, the current president and his prime minister promise to cancel the amnesty law when they come to power. He reiterated his desire to cancel the amnesty law in December during his speech to the nation. But up to now, that cancellation has not yet happened. But more importantly, one member of his party is now proposing to the parliament tomorrow to discuss a kind of bill that will change the content of the amnesty law, that will, according to them, interpret some provision of the amnesty law, but according to us, it's just a new legislation. Why it is a new legislation? Because it's a legislation that makes discrimination among those who committed crime. You know, when you put in a bill that only those who have been, those who committed crimes because they were fighting for civil liberties or democratic rights, only those people can now seek redress from the state. But the other can be amnestied, but the other people cannot be. It's clear that you are targeting a category of people who have committed crime, like a policeman.
Right. Again, you said that you're calling for justice to be served for perpetrators irrespective of their current state and governance. We want to find out who are some of these identified suspects of the human rights violations and atrocities that occurred during that period that are in governance now, that in one way, as in your own opinion, the amnesty law or bill that they will seek to rectify seems to be favoring them?
Well, you know, the biggest problem is this. How can you start reparation if you don't know what happened? If you don't know who did what, who killed who, why, how, and when? Nobody knows what happened between February 2021 to February 2024.
Well, I guess there was Dr. Ibrahim Khan, and Sankle Janko is here with Sport News, and I understand that Côte d'Ivoire trash CAR in the ongoing CAF Under-17 AFCON campaign 6-1. I'm sure they had a good time. Sankle, welcome.
Thank you very much, Imo. And like you rightly said, of course, Côte d'Ivoire began their CAF Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations campaign with an intense statement after thrashing Central African Republic 6-1 on Tuesday evening. Youngster Alino Haidara inspired his team to the resounding victory, scoring 4 of the 6 goals for Côte d'Ivoire. The former champions, who are looking at the following in the footsteps of their elephants, of course, in the senior place secure qualification. The commanding victory sees Côte d'Ivoire top of Group D with 3 points and 5 goals. Meanwhile, Mali made a strong start also to their campaign with a hard-fought 2-1 victory over Angola on Tuesday at the Stade Municipal de Berachid. Goals from Nukwari Bamba and Sungalo Koulibaly handed the Malians all the 3 points in their opening Group D clash. The victory takes Mali to second in Group D behind Côte d'Ivoire. Elsewhere, Tunisia made a flying start to their campaign thanks to a 3-0 win over Somalia on Tuesday in Al Jadida. The win puts Tunisia top of Group C on goal difference ahead of Senegal, who ate Gambia earlier in the Senegambian derby. Looking ahead, of course, on Thursday's fixtures, Cameroon will hope to bounce back from their 2-1 defeat to Burkina Faso in their opening campaign when they take on South Africa. That is tomorrow at 2 p.m. Meanwhile, Tanzania will also hope to get their first victory when they take on Uganda. Both lost their opening campaign games.
Well, will you say it's too early to predict who's going to win this tournament?
It's pretty too early because Senegal
without the Golden Eaglet.
Oh, yes.
Without I mean, how can they have an under-17 without the Golden Eaglet? Something is wrong somewhere.
No, something is wrong somewhere.
We need to investigate.
Both Ghana actually and Nigeria are not in this tournament, and usually they are the best in terms of youth category in this part of the world. But unfortunately, neither of them could make it this time around. So all eyes would be on Senegal to, of course, defend
I thought so too.
their title. But of course, you need to watch out for the likes of Mali, Burkina Faso, as well as South Africa. They've had some very good performance on the
I think it may be tense much later in the competition. This is just the first round.
The first round, yeah. So at the moment, teams just want to qualify to the next stage, and then we'll determine perhaps who will take the go home.
Indeed. Sankle, thank you so much for Sport News. And that it is on this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. And Mama Kurdu has been on the console this afternoon, and many thanks to Sheikh Njai also for the technical support. Do join us on conversations on all of our platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, at WADR News. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is a flagship gender program, 50-50 with Nadi Tete. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio.